When I ask someone, "How are you?" I usually get a response like, "Good," or "Fine." And sometimes, everything is just fine. Other times, life isn't going so well, but odds are, I'm not going to hear about what's troubling you, because it's too personal, irrelevant, unprofessional. Society tells us that some subjects are okay for conversation, while others aren't even worth talking about. When your elderly neighbor laments the laziness of today's youth, you probably ignore him and tell yourself, he's from a different era. It's hard to take it personally. I don't really care if he thinks I'm lazy. And sometimes you can sweep dirt under the rug and get away with it. But what about opinions that aren't harmless? When the other boys in the locker room snigger and say, "That's so gay," and you don't identify as straight, what do you do? When the outside stuff can't compare to the chaos up here and your friend tells you, "Oh, we all have anxiety, deal with it," do you just smile and nod? When the weight of another person's ignorance crashes into your chest, do you cry out, or is the breath knocked out of you? The smart black girl, the theater nerd, the druggie. When others neatly box you up with a label slapped on front based on their narrow impressions, how do you feel? And why should I care? I care because I want something from you. And if you feel like I don't give 2 cents about your needs, why would you care about mine? We don't live alone. We live in groups and communities and a society, and the whole point of that is to need other people and have other people need you. Maybe you can offer me a cup of coffee or a job pouring a cup of coffee. Maybe I need some emotional support, somebody to lean on. Maybe we as individuals can live on our own. Maybe we can survive, but to thrive requires human interaction. And for me, the interaction defines the quality of my life. Empathy can improve every human exchange. When you communicate with another person, you do so in the hopes of conveying something about yourself. If you can establish some emotional connection, you will be more successful at getting your point across. Think of someone in your life who excites you, someone who incites a curiosity that might one day lead to passion, a teacher of some sorts, a family member, a close friend. Can this person spark something in you without his or her own conviction? I find that pretty hard to do. More often, I see a torch trading hands, a fire spreading from one person to another. To empathize is to share your drive, your thirst, your pain, your pleasures, your happiness is only real when shared. The best authors write stories that we can call our own. The best leaders inspire confidence in individuals to create a movement of many. So, how do we better empathize? Start by shattering your assumptions of another person. If I can challenge my immediate judgments of you, then I allow you to define yourself instead of doing it for you. This January, I traveled to Francophone Belgium to work with political asylum seekers from all over the world. When one refugee named Raman first spoke to me, I saw his thick beard and his tall, powerful frame, and I thought to myself, he looks kind of threatening. But in our first conversation, Raman told me about the wife and daughter he had left in Afghanistan in order to seek safety elsewhere, and his plans to bring them to Belgium if he received asylum status. All I did was ask, "Do you have family?" And with one question, I could see a little girl burying her face into that thick beard, a young woman held tight by that tall, powerful frame. And in doing so, I remember myself when I was a kid, when I would rub my bare cheek against my father's bristles, when I would squeeze him around the chest even as he hugged me back. Rahman reminded me the importance of listening to someone else. Details are not shared at random. We talk about certain things because they make us feel a certain way, and we want other people to know how we feel. Rahman and I also talked about the US military presence in Afghanistan. At first, I hesitated to broach the subject because I assumed that he would have a negative opinion of the military. But when I finally asked, his answer surprised me. He said, "The military is trying to do good. My country has seen nothing but war for the last 20 years. My people want peace, no more conflict. But some few wish to fight because it is good for them. The military is trying to bring peace." Many of us have been conditioned to avoid asking direct questions for fear of offending another person. But how much more can you hurt someone else by choosing silence? If I had chosen not to ask, not to listen, if I had chosen instead to maintain my image of an intimidating Muslim man, I would have taken away Rahman's right to tell his story. And whether it's the cashier at the grocery store, the kid sitting next to you in homeroom, a young, well-dressed businesswoman, or a homeless man on the street, we see but a snapshot of another person's life. And armed with only a snapshot, we judge. We judge and we form an opinion that is often preconceived because it is in our nature. But more importantly, we are taught from a young age to inference another person's character. Or, if they are A, then they must think, do, or believe B. Taken to the extreme, this subconscious mechanism spawns bullying, discrimination, racial profiling. All these things come from an underlying suspicion of the other. Fear of the unknown veils our eyes, turning strangers into threats. But strangers kind of look like us. His eyes may be slanted, her skin darker, their gender less obvious. But we are human beings with human stories. You are here today, one among many listening. You have come as an agent of change. Remember that change is part of the word exchange. Start small. Start with one. One person to care, one question to make a difference. Thank you.